Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Master of None here. Today is kind of a special episode for me, since it marks the end of the weekly return to GW2 videos for the foreseeable future. This doesn't mean that it's the end of the channel though, on the contrary, to me it feels like we've just graduated or finished the tutorial. Before we get to the future of the channel, let me start on how my journey with the Icebrood Saga ended. As always, I'll have chapters set up in case you are only interested in specific topics. Obviously, there are going to be spoilers about the Icebrood Saga now, so just be warned. Initially I had written about 12 pages of notes while playing through everything. However, I figured that I didn't really want to do a full-fledged review about every single episode, since it's been out for quite a while and I don't think that it would be very interesting for most people. Instead, I'll just go over a couple of highs and low points for me. After finishing the whole thing, it was immediately obvious why people do not like the saga. First impressions are important for sure, but the ending can be even more important. Just look at Game of Thrones. I loved that show to the death, but in those last seasons, everything fell apart and I hardly remembered why I liked the show to begin with. While I think that's a bit of an extreme example, the ending of the Icebrood Saga just felt incredibly rushed and it was kinda unsatisfying. I don't want to dwell on it for too long, but the Dragon Response missions are probably the worst content I've played. They all just felt like the same thing over and over. The enemies had way too much health, but weren't actually a threat at all, which made it feel like a terrible slog. Again, it just feels so weird that I was praising the pacing of the events in Gruthmar Valley and Thunderhead Keep, and then we get this. Long drawn out events with the occasional waiting around and just defending the village from waves of enemies. I've gotten used to that most of the story content is easy, but when you pair it with giant health bars, then it gets bad. The first couple times I always joined the public instance, but I never actually saw anyone, except for once, so I guess the DRMs aren't super popular. After that I switched to private missions, which seemed to at least have some impact on enemy health. Due to the fact that the whole thing was such a slog, I'm also not interested at all in the mastery. From what I can tell, they are supposed to make it even easier, but honestly, I have no desire to ever go back to those missions. I did see that there are some challenges you can activate, but I haven't looked into it because of the reasons I just mentioned. So please let me know in the comments below if activating the challenges turns them into more engaging content or not. On a more positive note, I did enjoy the story missions prior to the finale. I mentioned in the last video that the story just didn't feel as cohesive as Season 4, and that holds true all the way through. I liked Bangar as a villain, but he just didn't get a lot of time anymore after the prologue, and instead our ally Smolder steps in as the guy that we are supposed to hate next. I think Aina did a great job in that regard, I truly despise that guy. However, he gets killed off pretty soon and all your allies are like, he was an idiot, but he did not deserve to die that way. And I'm just sitting here in front of my computer like, really? Pretty sure he deserved that. So yeah, that was a bit weird. The story in Drizzlewood also required me to visit 3 more Spirits of the Wild shrines, just like in Biora. Luckily, these events were miles better than the other ones. The timings for the gold medal could have been much tighter and it felt way too easy, but at least it didn't feel like a slog. I really enjoyed the one where you had to collect orbs while simultaneously dodging rocks that are coming down. It had a really old school adventure vibe to it, which I absolutely adored, and it reminded me of the good old PlayStation 2 days. The Ego Spirit challenge was a bit weird, since I'm not sure how you can actually fail that one. There is only one button to press and you literally just fly after an eagle. In episode 7 I mentioned how the story fell a bit apart because I was exploring the western side of the Biora marches, even though story-wise I shouldn't have access to it yet. Well, the same thing happened in Drizzlewood Coast. They talk about the giant glacial in the story that blocks half of the map, which was never there for me. So I assume it used to be there when the map originally came out, but then got removed once the next season got released. Again, I think it would be much better if ANET could somehow still have the ice wall there for people who haven't gone through the story yet, and remove it once you played through it on one character. All these issues aside, I still enjoy my time with the Icebrood Saga, and it was largely due to the fact that I thought all 3 maps were fantastic. However, I can totally understand why people would be severely disappointed by it when ANET themselves had labeled it as expansion level content. I checked the wiki and noticed that the worst part about the saga, the finale, was also split and released over the course of 6 months. I would have probably been quite negative as well if I had been playing actively at that time. Add on top of that the episodes were originally released without any voice acting, things start to fall into place for me. So I'm really glad I got to experience it all in one go instead. Fully voice acted and without having the opportunity to brood over some boring dragon response mission for 6 months straight. A couple weeks ago I did a video on what made Guild Wars 1 so special, and one of the points was how all the enemies in that game almost exclusively use skills that players could use as well. Guild Wars 2 has done very little of this up to this point. The closest thing are probably the white mantle enemies in Lake Doric and Bloodstone Fen, although they seem like amped up versions of player skills. Well, Drizzlewood Coast had more of this mechanic, which I absolutely love to see. Specifically, there are Icebrood Charwind maces and they use the skill Skull Grinder from the warrior specialization Berserker. The reason I like this so much is you start to get used to the animation of that skill, know what the effects do and know that you should probably dodge it. And this can then translate quite well into PvP. Whenever you would fight a Berserker with a mace, you would actually know beforehand what the skill looks like and what it does, since it's familiar to you. And even if you don't immediately recognize it, once you get hit it's pretty obvious. I think more of this would make PvP a lot more accessible and lower the barrier to entry. This is pretty much all I wanted to say regarding the Icebrood Saga. There are some great moments in there and some really low ones, especially the ending. However, in the end it was all new content to me and I had so much to go through, which made it overall still very enjoyable. The ending is a bit of a shame, but like I mentioned previously, I'm a bit done with Elder Dragons, so I'm kinda glad that 2 more are off the table. I just shouldn't think about it too much because they really did Primordus dirty. Especially since it's the dragon that has been set up all the way in 2007 with the release of Eye of the North.
And the greatest threat of all was yet to come. A threat that would consume the entire world and call upon the greatest of heroes, the children of the legends.
So where does it leave this series? First of all, I want to say that I absolutely love producing it. I'm ecstatic that so many people were enjoying, liking and commenting on all the videos, not just the Return to ones. I also love that the audience I'm building seems to be quite mature. I've had multiple times that people would disagree with me and write very elaborate comments, but for the most part, everyone has been respectful about it. I appreciate that so much since it's definitely not a given on the internet. It's great to read about different viewpoints, which in turn can mold or refine your own opinion on a topic. The Return to series itself hasn't necessarily come to an end, but don't expect a new episode every week. I've caught up with most of the content on which I could make weekly videos about. What remains is the repeatable or more grindy content like going for a legendary trinket or trying out raids for the first time. So I might drop the occasional new Return to episode if I feel like it's something worth talking about. Obviously, End of Dragons will remain a big topic on this channel, so expect news coverage, gameplay, all the good stuff. My current plans are also to do a series once the expansion actually launches, similar to the Return to series. I think that would be a lot of fun and we could talk about our experiences along the way. I might want to start to cover some other MMOs as well, but it's not a priority at the moment. I was able to fully invest into this channel for almost 3 months, but I've got to start working again to pay my bills. So by the time this video releases, I have started a new job and will have to figure out what release cadence will be manageable for me. According to the analytics, barely anyone will make it all the way till here, so I just wanted to plug that I've also made a buy me a coffee site if you want to support the channel monthly or just as a one-time thing. My return to the game has truly been wonderful. The YouTube videos also got some friends back into the game, which is the icing on the cake. I want to thank you again for all the support, the comments and just everything. And of course, I hope to see you in the next one.